I'd like to go over a very simple way to age a polyurethane guitar neck. This video is for the people out there that are not professional luthiers who want a simple and cheap way to age a guitar neck. Most of the necks supplied on inexpensive instruments these days are finished with clear polyurethane with no staining. The maple wood is nearly white when these instruments are new. I don't like it that way. This is an easy way to give them an aged look. I bought a couple of cheap Telecaster clone guitars. This first one is called the Glary GTL and was from Glary Musical Instruments. The second one is called the Indio Electric Classic Guitar, and it is sold by Monoprice. This staining method will work well for any Squire guitar also, which always ship with a neck that is much too light for me. Of the two guitars, I much prefer the Indio Electric Classic, but that mainly is a subject for another video. The Indio has a body that feels more like alder in weight than the basswood of the Glary. The quality of the construction in the Indio was definitely higher. The Indio cost $15 to $20 more, but it was well worth it. I bought an expensive spray can of lacquer guitar finished with an aged stain included in it from a seller of guitar restoration products. I read the label and it indicated I was to wait 2 weeks before sanding. I am too impatient for that kind of old world craftsmanship, so I returned the product. Now it may be that you don't actually have to wait 2 weeks to continue with the project, but I didn't want to take any chances. The other problem is that this expensive product from the guitar restorer is a lacquer finish. You can apply lacquer over polyurethane, but you cannot apply polyurethane over lacquer. That means that if I applied lacquer to this guitar, I would be stuck with lacquer for the following 2 to 6 coats. So I decided to do it a different way using a method I got from DK Guitars. I decided to try Angelus leather dye to stain the polyurethane on the neck. The first neck I tried to do was the Glary Telecaster. I made 2 mistakes with this neck as far as I was concerned. First of all, I sanded off most of the polyurethane with 150 grit sandpaper. Second, I used the leather dye at full strength. I ended up with a finish that was a little too dark for me, and there were some streaks on the neck caused by uneven sanding. After learning a little, I tried a different approach with the Indio neck. First, I used the jigsaw to cut the headstock to a shape I like better. Then I sanded off the front of the headstock only with 220 grit sandpaper in order to remove the Indio logo. I also had to sand the underside of the neck where I made the jigsaw cut. This was also done with 220 grit sandpaper. Then I applied 2 coats of Minwax Helmsman spar urethane to the top of the headstock and the bottom of the headstock where I did the cutting and sanding. I let it dry 12 hours between coats. I like the Minwax satin finish, not the glossy. Following this, I roughed up the entire guitar neck with triple aught steel wool. That's 000 steel wool. I did not try to completely remove the poly finish. I just made sure I went over it thoroughly, trying not to miss any spot. If you miss a spot, the dye will not take as deeply in the next step. You will get the best finish if your steel wool job is very even. If you want a darker finish, go harder on the steel wool, or perhaps use a coarser grade of steel wool. I didn't try this method. Next, take your Angelus leather dye. I used the brandy color. Mix it with the 93 to 100% isopropyl alcohol. The leather dye is alcohol-based, so this won't cause any chemical reaction. You might try mixing it up 50-50 in a medicine vial cap to start. This capful is enough to do 1 coat on a guitar neck. Rub it on carefully with an old cloth or rag. After you get the color you want, make sure you apply at least 1 coat of Minwax Helmsman spar urethane to the headstock before you apply any decals. Finish up with 2 to 3 light coats of the Minwax. Polish with steel wool between coats. You can get a beautiful, slick satin finish this way. I think this is a good method to get the look of an aged neck within a couple of days. Please subscribe and thank you.